When the war between the Empire of the Seven Cities and the Kingdom of Vespucci began in 2754, there were three exclusion zones, or EZ, between the two great powers. These zones were areas that were declared too dangerous to fight in, and that damage to those areas would be of great detriment to both nations. This was accepted by both sides, and the exclusion zones were completely avoided. EZ-1 was a nuclear power plant on the Vespucci side of the border. The power plant provides power for approximately 3 million Vespuccian citizens. Damage to the power plant would not just mean a permanent power outage for millions of people, but could potentially lead to a meltdown that would contaminate the heartland of the Kingdom of Vespucci, and the contamination would likely follow downstream and permanently make Eden City, Swamp City, and even the distant River City all uninhabitable and displace or kill tens of millions of Imperial citizens, and do 50 million auras of damage to the cities. Security of EZ-1 is handled by the Kingdom of Vespucci, with MSU specialists from Imperial City. As of writing, there has been no incidents in EZ-1. EZ-2 is Gillies Hospital, a hospital established by its namesake in 2673 AUC, during the Great War. The hospital's great historical and medical value has declared the hospital a sort of neutral zone between the two nations, despite being on the border of the Seven Cities' Eden City and Vespucci's Harvex. The hospital still sees patients daily, providing the most revolutionary medical services on the entire continent, if not the entire world. The roads leading to and from EZ-2 are well guarded by both nations on both sides. While there have been a few injuries and at least one casualty due to stray bullets, for the most part the exclusion zone has been enforced. EZ-3 is the wildlife refuge of Marsh Island. Despite being many kilometers from the front lines and well within Vermilion County, Marsh Island offers no strategic value to either side of the war. Preservation of the refuge, however, is high on the Emperor's personal agenda, so no nations are allowed to set up soldiers nor fortifications on the island. This is enforced by the International Vanguard Association, with assistance from the local Vermilion Vanguard. As of writing, there has been no casualties on Marsh Island that has been linked to the war. While these exclusion zones do make sense considering the context of what they are and how important they are to both the Empire of the Seven Cities and the Kingdom of Vespucci, damage to the exclusion zones would result in making the entire world a much worse place. So they are excluded from the Vespucci Seven Cities War. But the thing most people don't realize is that the number of exclusion zones have actually grown since the war began 9 years ago. Most of the exclusion zones that were created since then do make sense and have a history that can be found. EZ-14 was once the coal town of Central Hill in Silent County of Imperial City. Vespucci soldiers took the town by surprise and began shipping the coal and other resources back to their kingdom. What happened next is understood. How it happened, but not really why. There was a fire started in the coal mines, and the fire made the entire town uninhabitable. Toxic smoke, fiery sinkholes, and of course the intense heat made the town unusable to both sides of the conflict. How the fire was started remains unknown. The Kingdom of Vespucci said it was started by an imperial soldier who wanted to deny the town and its resources to the kingdom. The Empire of the Seven Cities said it was started by the Kingdom of Vespucci to torture the entire town and to bring harm to the Seven Cities. What is known is that there were no survivors from the coal fire. The fires are still burning with no way to put them out, with both the Kingdom of Vespucci and the Empire of the Seven Cities are not allowing anyone in or out of the town of Central Hill. However, there are also other exclusion zones that we don't know why they are excluded. EZ5 is a patch of ocean about 5 square kilometers in the Tano Sea that no ships, no planes, and no people are allowed to approach. This was agreed to by both the Emperor and King Walker. However, this exclusion zone is strictly enforced by the Triple Alliance, a neutral power in the Vespucci Seven Cities War. No reason given, photographs taken from long range and pictures taken by MSU satellites reveal no reason for EZ5 to be an exclusion zone, at least on the surface of the ocean. Some hypothesize what is the cause of EZ5 is what lies underwater. They say that due to geological activity in the area, that volcanic gases are released underwater, making the area unbreathable to any would-be sailors or pilots. At time of writing, there is no way of verifying the hypothesis without violating the exclusion zone. The largest and strangest exclusion zone is to the former city of Hust, in the territory of Tejas, located 136 kilometers west of Belmont and 67 kilometers north of Tejas City. Hust occupied over 1,600 square kilometers and had over 2,200,000 souls before it was declared Exclusion Zone 21. EZ21 is an oddity not just because of its size, easily being 10 times larger than the next largest exclusion zone, but also because of the great unknown surrounding the exclusion zone. Hust offers an incalculable amount of economic and strategic value to both the Seven Cities and to the Kingdom of Vespucci. Troops from the kingdom can travel much quicker through Hust to invade Belmont to get to River City, and troops from River City can travel through Hust to get to the capital of the territory, Stinn. Not to mention easy access to chemical manufacturing and ports in Tejas City, and countless other towns and districts with easy access from Hust. Hust offers strategic value unlike any other, and yet both powers simply abandoned it and isolated it, not just from each other, but from themselves. Full numbers are not yet known at this time, but my best estimates are that the Empire of the Seven Cities has devoted 500,000 soldiers just for securing this exclusion zone, more than anywhere else, and the Kingdom of Vespucci has devoted approximately 1.5 million soldiers to isolating Hust. Where is the Seven Cities Army getting so many troops? 60% of the troops are helots, 30% are auxiliaries, and 10% are legionary. Helots are captured prisoners of war who are conscripted to fight for the Empire of the Seven Cities for a period of 5 years before earning freedom back to their country of origin. Often they are given the most dangerous jobs in the war, usually as bullet fodder or performing physical labor. They aren't paid wages, but if they survive, they are paid a stipend of 5 aura at the end of their service. If they survive. Most helots do not survive their first year, let alone their 5th. Auxiliaries are recruits from lawbreakers and troublemakers who are given a choice to serve time in prison or serve somewhat less time in the military. While some auxiliaries are recruited directly from prisons, most of them are petty lawbreakers who find themselves 5 points down with 2 minutes to play and are desperate to turn their luck around. While being an auxiliary only guarantees a yearly wage of 7 auras, serving their time in the military does wipe their record and does look good on a resume. Being an auxiliary is still dangerous and almost never comes with promotion opportunities. Legionaries are career soldiers who signed up with the military with a clean record and, in some cases, a college education, wanting to serve the emperor. While being a soldier of any kind does carry risks, legionaries are usually not the first sent into no man's land. Along with a starting wage of 23 auras per year, it is no surprise that being a legionary is the most popular legal profession for young adults 14 to 25 years of age. It is a curiosity to put so many soldiers that the military considers disposable into guarding an exclusion zone, especially when most exclusion zones guarded by the Empire of the Seven Cities employ legionaries almost entirely. Another curiosity of EZ-21 is the fact that all of the soldiers, their guns, artillery, and towers are aimed into Hust, not away from Hust. Apparently, both great powers believe that the threat is coming from inside the exclusion zone, not outside of it. There have been no comments from either the Emperor nor from King Walker about what the danger of EZ-21 is. The final curiosity of EZ-21 is that the entire population of Hust is still there, alive, and they aren't seeking an escape. Several anonymous sources have confirmed this. Since there is no government comment and I cannot get within 10 kilometers of Hust, I have to rely on anonymous sources among the soldiers. To protect their identities, I will not reveal who they are, nor what side of the conflict they are on. From source Alpha. They have us run drills every day. It's like being back in basic, only it's every day, and we don't know what we are training against. Back in training, they told us that we were going to fight those bastards over there. My great-grandparents all fought over there, and they told all these stories of surviving near misses and how eventually they brought a victory. But now that I am over there, those barbarians are less than a kilometer from where I sleep. But they're on my side now? But only here? Seriously, when I'm on patrol around Hust, I'm supposed to leave them alone when I see them. But when I'm on my weekly watch guarding the road, I'm allowed to shoot them when they get close? Something is really fucking messed up. They promised me that I would be a hero, and instead I feel like a fucking mall cop. Except the mall shoppers never leave. From source beta. I was called in at the very beginning. We weren't given a reason. They just told us to stand on the bridge and point our guns into Hust. If anyone gets close, we're supposed to aerate them with our lead applicators. And I saw a few thousand Houstonians approach, but they stayed just outside of range. They watched us, we watched them. I couldn't see anything wrong with them, but the way they stood there, staring at us with those blank 100-meter stares, they came to the bridge at the same time. They stared at us for an hour before the eggheads came in with some kind of radio dish equipment. and they aimed it at Hust. When those were pointed at the people, they turned around and headed back into Hust. We were told to guard and not let them get close. It's been almost a year. I've not seen so much as a rat approach us from Hust. Sometimes I can see people inside, moving around, but they won't get close to those radio dishes. After seeing those eyes, though, I don't want to deal with whatever lies inside. I just have 2 years left in my service. And once I get out, I'm getting my gold and I'm going south. Maybe gamble in Zama. Or maybe I'll keep going until I hit Ta Han Tin Siu. Anything to get away from those dead eyes. While I had several other anonymous sources verifying both alpha and beta, I did have one very unique anonymous source. A higher ranking source within the Great Powers. One who sought me out, and I have not sought them out. For their safety, I will not disclose their name, their nationality, or even how they found me. From Source Omega. I was a big deal back in the MSU. I was a big deal on the Sols. I was even a big deal in Europa, Ottawa, Mayquill, Sealy, Auster, and even Vespucci. Though, when I was given an opportunity to study something no one had ever seen before, I jumped at the opportunity. When the exclusion zone was first built, it was more like a fence with a bunch of soldiers who looked fresh out of middle school, manning it. It was clear something inside had everyone spooked, but no one knew what. Well, I was brought all the information known by both the Seven Cities and the Kingdom of Vespucci. The generals of both sides shared a tent, just the two of them, having a hushed conversation when I was brought inside. Once there, I was shown a heavily redacted file. The country of origin, the scientist who wrote it, even the dates were all redacted, but I had enough information. Someone had a new Eigen weapon they wanted to test in Hust. The one who wanted to test it was redacted, of course, but I still feel it was obvious, even if they didn't want to think that it was. The weapon was some kind of bomb that was supposed to use nuclear fission to generate a massive amount of radiation in a location without touching any of the infrastructure. Project Pencil, they called it. A simple name for such a devastating weapon. I had known about Eigen weapons developed by the MSU that worked on a similar premise, but they burn up most of the radioactive material in the explosion to reduce contamination. This one was a bomb designed to generate a bunch of radiation all at once, and then the radiation was supposed to fade in 48 hours, leaving an entirely dead city, but leaving all of the resources and infrastructure accessible. A clean conquest, the document called it. A clean conquest. I felt dirty reading those words. I'm no angel, mind you. Being a respected scientist on 6 different continents comes with a lot of blood on my hands. I knew more than a few of my papers on studying radioactive metals inspired the use of depleted uranium darts, or how radiation in medicine could be used to treat cancer. Also told them how to untraceably kill someone with a substance that decayed before the body could be examined. But the very fact that someone was trying to seek out a way of killing without risking themselves, that's a level of war I don't think anyone is ready for. It was considered failure at first because no one died from the bomb. Radiation remained in the air, and when they sent their scouts into Hust, they got sick, and died of acute radiation poisoning before they could even return. So they began to build this exclusion zone, and they kept the citizens inside with King Walker's unique gift. Journalists note, King William Walker of the Kingdom of Vespucci has a unique Exime ability to compel anyone who hears his voice to listen to his directions. Hence why all media from the kingdom is banned in every member state of the League of Nations. Even as radiation in the air was supposed to clear, the people remained radioactive. They all radiated 500 REM of radiation. Their absorbed radiation is estimated to exceed the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of rads. Not only should they be dead, their bodies should be too radioactive to rot. If they get close to us, they would kill half of us within a month. And that is if there is just one. If there are 10, or even just 2, then we would be dead in minutes. And there were over 2 million of them in Hust. If they got out, we aren't merely talking about the collapse of the continent of Vespucci. We are talking about the collapse of Sealy, the complete destruction of the fishing industry, and the collapse of the ocean ecosystem before ecological collapse on a worldwide scale. We only had 2 advantages: King Walker's words and the 2 most populous militaries in the world guarding the edges. They could be shot and killed. After a month, the body would be safe enough to move into a radioactive containment vessel. So now, it's a waiting game. We wait on the edges, making sure nothing leaves the exclusion zone. King Walker cannot order them to self-harm nor kill themselves, but he can order them to remain within Hust. Food and water should eventually run out, and when the last citizen starves, we can finally enter Hust and clean it up. That's why we have the radio dishes. They project Walker's message throughout Hust and also let us track the radioactive sources within the city. And that was another big problem we didn't anticipate. They found an alternative food source in each other. When they consumed each other's flesh, they became more radioactive than before. We were tracking people in the city who were emitting 10,000 REM, so we don't know how long they will survive, or when Hust will be inhabitable again, so we will keep the exclusion zone going for as long as we can. If you're wondering why I'm not working for them anymore, to me, it's only a matter of time before they escape. Not an if, it's a when. Every person they consume increases their REM by adding their victim's REM to their own. And there's over 2 million people in Hust. When we get to the final survivor, they will be emitting 1 billion REM. They will be the most radioactive object in the history of the planet, emitting enough energy to melt through the Earth's crust and plunge into the mantle. But not before reaching groundwater, bringing it to a boil, and ejecting billions of tons of radioactive steam into the sky. I'm not going to be anywhere near that. Several days after my interview with Source Omega, an unidentified object plunged from orbit into EZ-21. According to a reliable source in River City, the object is from a secret Imperial orbiting space station. What effect this object will have, if any, on EZ-21 can only be speculated at this time.
The previous article has been declared a danger to the Empire of the Seven Cities. Delete the previous paragraph or else the article will not be fit for publication. From the office of the Vigiles Urbani, we watch the cities.